Jimmy and Joanne, welcome back to another episode of Unseen Libya. And of course, this week we're going to be talking about the time that you guys spent there in Tripoli. First, let me say, welcome back to the program. You're both looking very well.
Thank you, Jason. You too.
Yeah.
I know you guys have had some health issues you've been dealing with lately. Jimmy had his surgery. You're looking good, Jimmy. Feeling strong?
Thank you. Yeah, my cough, I'm down to coughing once or twice a day instead of a couple of thousand times, so I'm doing a lot better.
Yeah, you had the flu after the knee surgery. It was a whole lot that you were going through there. But of course, we're going to be talking today about the fact-finding mission that you both went on. Took you to Al Fateh University in Tripoli?
Al Fateh.
What is that all about, Al Fateh University?
Al Fateh is, well, the name Al Fateh, the 1969 bloodless coup, when the tribes took their country from the old despot king of the puppet of the United Kingdom and Italy, it was called the Al Fateh Revolution. So this university is named after that. And it's the main university in Libya.
Right.
It's the highest ranked university in Libya. It was at that time.
Yeah, they've tried to rename it because they're not proud of the rats, the Libyan rats who joined the traitors and the mercenaries who went against their country. The 4% of them who the U.S. gave Libya to have tried to rename that university. They've tried to do things to discount what was done, the great things that were done by the Al Fateh Revolution.
But that university was bombed. It had rockets. I don't know how many times the U.S. bombed that university.
Oh, yeah. We have pictures.
During 2011.
Yeah, we have pictures of that. And Dr. Ali was a friend of ours. He was the head of what? Economics? I can't remember.
No, he was actually dean of the graduate school at Al Fateh, but his economics and political science were his.
Dr. Ali Mansour.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still a good friend of ours.
We were in the parking lot of the Al Fateh University one time when a rocket came down, did almost a 360 in the parking lot, then went back up and hit the building.
Wow. That's surprising. I didn't know rockets could do that. But what was most surprising, or maybe not most surprising, but what surprised me is that just in looking for graphics for today's show, Googling Al Fateh University Tripoli, it brings up a lot of architectural renderings, but very few actual photos. These are all computer-generated images of the university. Do you guys have any insight as to why?
Yeah, they were planning a complete remodel of that university. It was real important to Libya. And those are renderings, I'm sure, that were given to Libya from different architectural firms, either in the United States or other places.
Yeah, plus that thing was hit by a bunch of rockets. I'm sure the structures there are in such disarray still, that probably 90 buildings that they'd be proud to have on the internet.
The young man who was our translator in a lot of these videos, Ashraf, was a fourth-year medical student at Al Fateh University, and he never did get to finish his medical degree.
Wow.
I don't even know if they're back again in teaching. But they destroyed a lot of things in Libya, not just the things you can see.
So you're saying the university may not actually even be functional at this point in time?
It's functional.
It's functional, but probably in a limited capacity. A lot of the buildings were destroyed and damaged. While we were there, many of the lecture halls, the larger lecture halls
were
that
bombed.
Had like 400, 500 seat capacity, those were bombed and couldn't be used.
Wow.
The U.S. said that it was all accidental bombings, that university sat next to a military base, and that military base was the target. The military, that property right behind the university had not been a military base for 20 years. So, more BS.
Well, it wasn't only Al Fateh. They bombed hotels and hospitals, and the list is endless. There was no accidental bombing. There was intentional bombing.
Right.
Besides that, they used JDAM missiles, and JDAMs are laser targeted missiles. There's no phony excuse of oops.
If they knock a license plate off a car, then there's no excuse to hit the wrong target.
So a JDAM missile being laser targeted, how does that work? Do we know? Is it
Somebody on
someone
the ground marks the target with a laser. The computer in the airplane triangulates with a satellite, and then they've got that target marked. And then once it's marked, you can turn off the ground laser, and the rocket will be programmed to go to that pinpoint.
So someone on the ground would have to mistakenly point a laser at a university. Basically what we're getting at is, obviously nothing is infallible, but this is a highly accurate targeting mechanism. And the concept
it's baloney that they made a mistake. They blew up Gaddafi's youngest son's home in Tripoli with a JDAM missile.
3 of them.
And the guy who targeted it was living in the tree next door. We saw where he was residing.
You see in the top of the tree where a spot at the top had been, the branches in front had been cut out, like a window directly over that house.
And he'd been up and down the tree a number of times. He was living up there. And it was Gaddafi's youngest son, Saif al-Arab, and he was a humanitarian. All he did was have some African AIDS, charities, and things like that. And he had 3 of his nieces and nephews with him in the home, babies, and they were killed along with him. We were at that house.
Unbelievable. Now, I think it's important that we remind everyone that every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time in Texas, where the Moriartys are, we've been doing a regular show, and it appears for our sponsors on Patreon and Subscribestar. So I want to remind people who are watching us right now on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I hope that you'll go to patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty. That's a Patreon page that Jimmy and Joanne have started where viewers can sponsor them, become regular monthly supporters of the show. Of course, you're going to get access to exclusive content. Earlier today on Crowdsource the Truth, where people can also become sponsors, we had an episode of Light on Conspiracies with Ole Damagard and Judith Very Baker. What I've been trying to do is to create a sort of a mini network of people who come on to the show here who can share their stories in a forum that's a little bit less open to trolls and some of these operations that are being launched by troublemakers or perhaps more sinister people on YouTube and some of the other platforms where we are right now. And by keeping this information on a subscription-only service like patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, it allows people to have access to this material in a way that is not as susceptible to the malicious strikes and targeting that so much of the information that Jimmy and Joanne and my other guests on Crowdsource the Truth have shared. So I hope that people will become sponsors of the show. Back to the university for a moment, Jimmy and Joanne. Again, when I was searching for it, it was pretty difficult to find imagery of it, even on Google Earth. When I put in Fateh University, it gives me the University of Tripoli, and the photography of the site is really limited. It appeared to be pretty close to the airport at one point. Does this look like the right place?
Yeah, they tried to rename it University of Tripoli. It'll go back to the Al Fateh University when Libya takes back their country.
Is that imminently going to happen?
Yeah, the reason for this interview, Joanne and the other members of the fact-finding commission were at the university to try to really get a clarification of exactly how the political system in Libya worked, because there was so much confusion. Nobody knew what Gaddafi's role was. What was the real government like? Was anybody elected? Was this a dictatorship or whatever? So they went to the best minds, if you would, in the country.
Yeah, we
have them explain exactly how their political system worked.
We requested of the fact-finding commission. We said we want to know how the Libyan government, how does it work? What role does Gaddafi play? And they said, what we will do is set you up a meeting with the top of Al Fateh University. These are where people get PhDs. and we'll meet with the PhD professors, the professors that teach there for PhDs. And the ladies you see in this video are students getting their PhDs. They don't speak, but they're there learning. There's a couple male professors that show up there. Dr. Saad is the one with the tam hat, you know, the kind of French hat. And I know the name of the other professor, but I can't remember it right now, the other professor to the left there.
And of course, Joanne, the thing that's so unique about the information that you guys are sharing each week with our audience, this is material that you shot on your own personal camera. You were not sent there as journalists. You weren't working for Al Jazeera or CNN or Fox News. You were just two independent people conducting business in Libya, trying to gain an understanding and approaching it as honest citizens. And it's amazing the level of, you know, you were greeted, of course, with open arms in Libya, and you've shared with us in previous broadcasts how so many people in Libya considered you the only honest people who were, you know, really trying to bring their stories forward. You guys were basically sought out throughout Libya by people who wanted their stories to be told with integrity rather than by those that sought to disseminate fake information.
That's correct. And it was this kind of in-depth discussion of really what the political system was. I think this is the only video that really defines that. If you listen to all the pundits and all the agenda-driven media, they talk about a completely different environment in Libya that just didn't exist. Gaddafi was a dictator, etc. Was not true.
The interesting thing is, they talk about the government in Libya, but they have no idea of what the government in Libya was or how it worked. Even Claire Lopez, who was ex-CIA, supposed if there is an ex, on the Benghazi Citizens Committee, spoke to me about this, and I told her that Gaddafi was not the leader of Libya at that time, and she said, "How do you know that?" And I said, well, I was there, and I sat with the Al Fateh University professors who told me that and explained how the government worked.
Plus, there was an elected president.
Yeah, she had no idea about this.
When Joanne told him that they had an elected official, his name was Baghdadi. Oh no, he was from Iraq. And Joanne said, "Why do you?" Well, his name. Well, you know, that shows you this is the intelligence of our CIA. But Baghdadi was elected as the leader in 2006, shortly after Gaddafi stepped down as a requirement of the Treaty of 2006. And he was still the leader of the country until he snuck out in the darkness of night by boat to Tunisia.
He's in prison right now. Tunisia turned him over to the criminals.
And Claire Lopez was the source for the Citizens Committee investigating Benghazi. All the information they had came from her. And she claims never to have been in Benghazi, yet she knew street by street, corner by corner, as though she had walked those streets a lot.
No, there was a lot of things she said that her statements were incorrect.
They were lies.
No, yeah, she said there were no missiles there. I disagreed with her on that. I told her we were captured by Al Qaeda. She said, "How do you know they were Al Qaeda?" I said, well, I'm using Al Qaeda as a generic term for terrorists. I don't know.
Right.
Let's just say they were terrorists that NATO was supporting. How about that?
Yeah. And then it's interesting to see how certain people have sort of risen up. If you make a statement like we were captured by Al Qaeda, I think the average person knows it doesn't really matter if it was Al Qaeda, Al Nusra, Jimmy's terrorist squad. Sorry, Jimmy, didn't mean to use your name. Just in saying any generic terrorist squad, Al Qaeda, it's like if you drank RC Cola and referred to it as Coca-Cola or a Coke,
right.
Would that be grounds to call you a liar? I don't think so, but yet we've had people accuse you guys of not being terrorism experts and come out very strongly against some of the things that you've said. I personally believe that you two have got a tremendous amount of information to share with our audience. We're just about out of time on our preview here on YouTube and Periscope and Facebook and DLive and VK.com and all of the various networks that we go out on. I hope that people will join us in just 15 minutes from now on patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It's a subscriber-only show, and we're going to be going in depth into all this material. And of course, what we've taken to doing lately is posting the raw videos that Jimmy and Joanne provide. So after the interview, people can go through and look at the original material. Sometimes these materials have large sections of dialogue that are spoken in foreign languages, and we're just putting that material there on patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, so that our subscribers, so that people who are serious about learning what's going on in Libya can view that information and really dig into the details in what we've tried to create as a troll-free environment. And I want to thank all of our generous sponsors. Before we go, I do want to remind people that they can learn more about Jimmy and Joanne by going to their website, which is LibyanWarTheTruth.com. Additionally, if you become a sponsor of Jimmy and Joanne's Patreon page, you're going to be able to purchase their DVD and get free shipping. So that's a $5 savings. And it's not an automated process, so if you're interested in that free shipping offer on the Escape from Al-Qaeda DVD, please make sure you send an email to Jimmy and Joanne, and they can make sure you get that discount. Jimmy and Joanne, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'll be back with you in just 15 minutes, and I look forward to the rest of our conversation.
Thank you, Jason.